The champagne flutes clinked as Sarah finished her speech, her perfectly manicured hand gripping the microphone. And now, for the announcement you've all been waiting for. She paused, flashing that million-dollar smile that had graced every company newsletter since she became CEO last year. Please join me in congratulating our new Vice President of Finance, my beloved sister, Jennifer Marshall. The grand ballroom at the Fairmont erupted in applause. 200 employees in their finest attire, all staring at me. I nearly dropped my drink, my hand trembling as I tried to process what was happening. This wasn't right. I was a mid-level financial analyst, not a VP candidate. I hadn't even interviewed. "Come on up here, Jen." Sarah beckoned, her voice carrying that same syrupy sweetness she used when asking me to co-sign for her first car at 16. Something wasn't adding up. As I made my way to the stage, my phone buzzed in my clutch. Probably congratulations from Mom, I thought. But when I glanced down, my blood ran cold. Chase Bank alert. Transfer complete. $127,000 to account ending in 4891. I stopped mid-stride. That was my emergency fund, my house down payment, everything I'd saved over 8 years of 60-hour weeks and declined vacations. My fingers flew across the screen, opening the banking app. Balance: $243.17. Jennifer seemed speechless. Sarah laughed into the microphone, drawing more chuckles from the crowd. She's always been the quiet one in the family. Quiet? Yes, like how I stayed quiet when she borrowed my college fund for her startup that mysteriously failed, or when she convinced our parents to remortgage their house for her foolproof investment scheme last year. I reached the stage, legs somehow still working. Sarah pulled me into an embrace, whispering, "Just smile, little sis. Your moment of glory." Glory. Right. More like her perfect setup. The next hour passed in a blur of handshakes and congratulations. "You must be so proud," people kept saying. "Working with your sister, keeping it in the family. If they only knew." At 9:47 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Another transfer alert. Investment purchase confirmed. Market Shield Securities. I'd never heard of them. Sarah was across the room, champagne in hand, laughing with the board members. I watched her check her own phone, saw her smile widen just slightly. 8 years at Morgan Stanley's Forensic Accounting Division had taught me to recognize patterns. This one was crystal clear. "Excuse me, Ms. Marshall." A server appeared at my elbow. "There's a call for you at the front desk. They say it's urgent." I followed him through the crowd, past the ice sculpture slowly melting into elegant rivers, past the string quartet playing something classical and expensive. The hotel manager waited by his office, expression grave. "Ms. Marshall, there are some people here to see you." He opened the door. 3 people stood inside. 2 men in dark suits, 1 woman in business casual with a laptop under her arm, all wearing FBI badges. Jennifer Marshall. The woman stepped forward. "I'm Special Agent Diana Torres, Financial Crimes Division. We need to discuss some irregular transactions flagged at Market Shield Securities." I almost laughed. Let me guess. About $127,000 worth of irregular? Agent Torres raised an eyebrow. "You're aware of the transfers?" "I am now." I pulled out my phone, showing them the alerts. "And I can tell you exactly who authorized them. The same person who just promoted me to VP of Finance without warning. Your sister Sarah Marshall. The one and only." I sank into a chair, the evening's events suddenly making perfect sense. She needed a fall guy for whatever she's been doing at Market Shield. What better choice than her own sister, newly promoted to VP of Finance? Ms. Marshall, one of the male agents, stepped forward. What can you tell us about your sister's connection to Marcus Thorne? The name hit me like a physical blow. Marcus Thorne, the hedge fund manager indicted last month for running a $50 million Ponzi scheme. The same Marcus Thorne I'd seen leaving Sarah's office late one night in October, looking nervous. I think, I said slowly, I can tell you quite a lot. But first, I need to show you something from my personal laptop. I've been keeping a separate record of some concerning transactions I've noticed over the past few months. Agent Torres nodded. That would be extremely helpful. As I pulled out my laptop, my phone buzzed one final time. A text from Sarah. Where are you? The board wants to take photos with their new VP. I showed the message to Agent Torres. Should I tell her I'm a bit busy at the moment? Actually, she replied, I think we should let her keep wondering. Sometimes silence speaks volumes. I thought about all the times I'd stayed quiet for Sarah's sake. All the money I'd lent. All the schemes I'd overlooked. Now finally, the truth would have its moment. Looking at my banking app one more time, I felt an odd sense of calm. $243.17. Everything I'd saved, gone in an instant. But Sarah had forgotten one crucial detail about her quiet little sister. I knew where all the bodies were buried, and I had receipts for every single one. Agent Torres, I said, opening my laptop, let me show you exactly how deep this rabbit hole goes. The hotel manager brought us coffee while I connected my laptop to Agent Torres's secure drive. 8 months of meticulously documented transactions filled the screen, each one a red flag I'd noticed but never reported, until now. It started small, I explained, pulling up a spreadsheet from March. Consulting fees to shell companies, unusual wire transfers to offshore accounts. Nothing obviously illegal, but the patterns were familiar. Agent Torres leaned forward. Familiar how? I spent 3 years investigating Madoff-style schemes at Morgan Stanley. These transactions mirror classic laundering patterns. I clicked through to a folder labeled Market Shield Cross-References. See these transfers? They're structured to look like legitimate investments, but the money just circles back through different entities. All connected to Marcus Thorne. The male agent, Anderson, asked. Not directly. Sarah was smarter than that. She used intermediaries, usually failing companies she'd acquire through the firm. But look at the IP addresses for these wire authorizations. I pulled up another document. They all trace back to the same block of offices, including one registered to Thorne's wife. My phone buzzed again. Sarah, seriously, where are you? Don't embarrass me like this. Agent Torres noticed my expression. Your sister doesn't know you tracked all this. Sarah never thought I was capable of understanding high-level finance, I said, a bitter laugh escaping. She used to tell our parents I was better suited for basic accounting. Meanwhile, I was building forensic models for 9-figure fraud cases at Morgan Stanley. Why did you leave Morgan Stanley? Anderson asked. Sarah convinced me to join her firm last year. Said it was time to keep things in the family. I opened another folder. That's when I started noticing the discrepancies. Small at first, then larger. 2 months ago, I began backing up everything. Torres studied the screen. These transaction patterns matched Thorne's other known operations. But why empty your personal account tonight? I pulled up my banking records because of these. the screen filled with transfer notifications from the past week. Someone's been testing my account permissions, seeing if they could initiate transfers without secondary authorization. I changed my security settings yesterday. And tonight's promotion makes me officially responsible for all financial oversight. I showed them the company bylaws. As VP of Finance, I would have signed off on every transaction from the past year, including the ones connected to Thorn. Taurus finished. Your sister was setting you up to take the fall, while simultaneously stealing my savings so I couldn't afford decent legal representation. I closed my laptop. Classic Sarah. She always did like solving two problems at once. My phone lit up with another message, this time from my mother. Honey, why aren't you taking photos with the board? Sarah says, you're being difficult. Agent Anderson checked his watch. The party's still going on upstairs. Full swing, I confirmed. Sarah would never let a little thing like FBI investigation ruin her perfect evening. Ms. Marshall, Taurus said carefully, we'd like to propose something. Would you be willing to go back to the party? I raised an eyebrow. Why? Because right now, your sister doesn't know we're here. She doesn't know what you've shown us. And most importantly, Taurus smiled slightly, she doesn't know we've been building a case against her for months. Your evidence is the final piece we needed. Understanding dawned. You want me to act normal while you get everything in place. Just for a few hours, Anderson added. Give us time to secure warrants for the Market Shield offices. We don't want anything disappeared overnight. I thought about Sarah upstairs, champagne in hand, probably already planning how to explain my inevitable arrest to our parents. How she'd play the devastated sister, forced to turn in her own flesh and blood for financial crimes. I can do better than act normal, I said, standing up. I can make sure she doesn't suspect a thing. I pulled out my compact, checked my makeup. After all, what kind of VP would I be if I missed my own celebration? Torres handed me a small device. Wear this. We'll be monitoring everything. One question, I said, clipping the miniature microphone to my dress. The $127,000 she took. We've already frozen those transfers, Torres assured me. You'll get every penny back. I smoothed my dress, took a deep breath. Then let's go give my sister the performance of a lifetime. The elevator ride back to the ballroom felt surreal. Music and laughter spilled out as the doors opened. Sarah spotted me immediately, weaving through the crowd with that perfect smile still firmly in place. There you are, she exclaimed, grabbing my arm. Where have you been? The photographer's waiting. I smiled back, channeling every ounce of the quiet, admiring sister she thought I was. Sorry, just needed some air. It's all so overwhelming. Well, come on then. She pulled me toward the stage. Everyone wants to hear your acceptance speech. As we walked through the crowd, I thought about all the speeches Sarah had given over the years, all the times she'd stood in the spotlight while I watched from the shadows. But tonight would be different. Tonight, my quiet diligence would finally speak louder than her practiced charm. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah announced, my sister would like to say a few words. I took the microphone, aware of the FBI agents now positioned discreetly around the room. Thank you all, I began. You know, my sister always taught me the importance of family loyalty. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. To family loyalty, I raised my champagne glass, locking eyes with Sarah, and to always keeping accurate records. Something flickered across her face, a micro-expression most people would miss, but I'd spent years studying my sister's tells. That slight tightening around her eyes, the almost imperceptible clench of her jaw. She knew something was off. And speaking of records, I continued, my voice carrying across the now silent ballroom, I'd like to thank the board for trusting me with our company's financial oversight. I take my fiduciary responsibilities very seriously. Sarah's champagne glass trembled slightly. Behind her, I noticed Mr. Davidson, our lead director, checking his phone with a frown. The FBI must have started making calls. In fact, I turned to address the board members directly. I've already prepared a comprehensive review of our last quarter's transactions. I'd be happy to walk you through some interesting patterns I've noticed. Sarah's hand gripped my elbow. Maybe save the shop talk for Monday, sis. Her fingers dug into my skin. Tonight's for celebrating. Oh, but this is fascinating stuff. I kept my tone light, professional, especially those new investments through Market Shield Securities. Quite innovative structuring there. The color drained from her face. In my earpiece, Agent Torres whispered, "Warrants secured. Keep her talking." Speaking of Market Shield, I reached for my phone. I just got the most interesting alert about some transfers. Jennifer. Sarah's voice cut through the air like a blade. A word in private? Before I could respond, she was steering me toward her office, her perfect smile still in place, but her grip bruising. As soon as the door closed, that smile vanished. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed. I perched on the edge of her mahogany desk, the same one our father had used before she forced him into early retirement. "Just discussing business, sis. Isn't that what EPs do?" "Cut the act." She stalked closer. "How much do you know?" "About what? The shell companies? The circular transfers? Or your little meetings with Marcus Thorne's wife?" Her face went completely still. "You've been spying on me?" "No, Sarah. I've been doing my job. The one you never thought I was capable of handling." She laughed, but it held no humor. "You're an accountant, Jen. A basic number cruncher. You really think you understand what's happening here?" "I understand exactly what's happening." I pulled up my banking app. "Just like I understand why you emptied my savings tonight. Needed to make sure I couldn't afford good lawyers when everything fell apart." "That money was an investment," she snapped. "I was trying to help you." "Like you helped Mom and Dad invest their retirement? Or like you helped Marcus Thorne's investors?" The mention of Thorne's name hit her like a physical blow. She stumbled back, catching herself against the wall. "You don't know anything about Marcus." "I know he's under federal indictment. I know his Ponzi scheme matches the exact pattern I've been tracking in our books. And I know—" I held up my phone, showing her the latest alert from my banking app, that the FBI just froze all transfers to Market Shield accounts. "You little bitch." The words came out in a whisper. "You went to the feds." Actually, I stood up slowly. They came to me. Turns out, I'm not the only one who's been keeping records. The door opened. Agent Torres stepped in, followed by 2 other agents. "Sarah Marshall, we need you to come with us." Sarah's eyes darted between them and me, that brilliant mind of hers obviously calculating odds, looking for angles. "Whatever she told you, she's lying." "I can explain everything." "I'm sure you can," Torres replied calmly. "You can start by explaining the $50 million in fraudulent investments you coordinated with Marcus Thorne. Or," I added, "you could explain why you promoted me to VP tonight. Was it before or after you realized the FBI was closing in?" "You're my sister." Sarah's voice cracked. "Everything I did for this family." "No." I moved toward the door. "Everything you did, you did for yourself. You just expected family loyalty to clean up your mess. Agent Anderson appeared with handcuffs. Sarah's perfectly manicured hands shook as they secured them. Jennifer, please. Don't let them do this. I'm your sister. I thought about all the times she used that line. All the sacrifices she demanded in the name of family. You're right, Sarah. You are my sister. That's why I kept such detailed records. Because someone had to be responsible for the truth. As they let her out, I heard commotion from the ballroom. The party was ending abruptly. Board members huddled in corners making urgent phone calls. Employees whispering in clusters. Ms. Marshall, Agent Torres touched my arm. We'll need you to come in tomorrow for a formal statement. I nodded, watching Sarah disappear into the elevator between two agents. Her last look back at me wasn't angry or betrayed. It was something worse, confused. Like she genuinely couldn't understand how her quiet little sister had finally found her voice. My phone buzzed one last time. A notification from Chase. Fraudulent transfers reversed. $127,000 restored to account ending in 7729. I smiled, thinking about Sarah's words from her promotion speech just hours ago. Family is everything in business. She was right about that part. She just never expected family to be her undoing. The headlines broke the next morning. CEO arrested in $50 million investment fraud. Sarah's perfect smile stared out from her corporate headshot, now plastered across every financial news site. Beneath it, smaller, sister's evidence key to FBI investigation. I sat in my apartment, watching the sun rise over downtown Austin while reporters flooded my voicemail. The Wall Street Journal wanted an exclusive. CNBC requested an interview. Bloomberg suggested a feature piece. I ignored them all, focusing instead on the email from Agent Torres. Board meeting emergency session. 9 a.m. Your presence requested as acting CFO. Given your role in uncovering the fraud, they're confident in your oversight during transition. My mother called at 7:43 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. Jennifer, please call us. We don't understand. Sarah says there's been a terrible misunderstanding. She would never. She's your sister, honey. Family doesn't do this to family. I deleted it without responding. An hour later, my father tried. Princess, whatever Sarah did, we can fix this as a family. She made some mistakes, but destroying her life isn't the answer. Call me back. Destroying her life. Not a word about the lives she destroyed, the retirement accounts emptied, the investors ruined. Just like always, Sarah was the priority. At 8:45, I walked into our corporate headquarters, the same building where yesterday I'd been just another analyst. Security nodded respectfully. They'd clearly been briefed. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt different now. No more badge required. The boardroom was packed when I arrived. Directors, lawyers, crisis management teams. Mr. Davidson stood as I entered. Ms. Marshall, thank you for coming. He gestured to the chair Sarah usually occupied. Please. I sat down, aware of every eye on me. Someone had placed a copy of the Wall Street Journal on the table, Sarah's face staring up at me. The situation is obviously delicate, Davidson began. But your handling of the investigation has impressed everyone. We'd like to offer you the position of Chief Financial Officer, effective immediately. The board feels having you at the helm will help restore investor confidence. I looked at the offer letter he slid across the table. The salary was 7 figures. Corner office included. There's one condition, I said, not touching the paper. Davidson raised an eyebrow. Yes. A full audit. Independent firm. Every transaction for the past 5 years. Not just Sarah's tenure. No exceptions. The room shifted uncomfortably. I continued, because Sarah didn't build this scheme alone. She had help. Inside help. And I want every single person involved identified and held accountable. That could be disruptive, one of the directors warned. More disruptive than federal indictments. I met his gaze steadily. More disruptive than what's coming when Thorne starts naming names. Silence fell. Davidson cleared his throat. Full audit. Agreed. Anything else? Yes. I finally picked up the offer letter. I want my father's retirement package restored. The one Sarah convinced him to forfeit when she took over. Plus back pay with interest. Done. I signed the letter. That evening, I drove to my parents' house in West Lake Hills. The same house Sarah had convinced them to mortgage for her investment opportunity last year. I found them in the kitchen, looking older than I remembered. Oh, Jennifer. Mom started crying immediately. How could you do this to your sister? I set my briefcase on the counter. I brought something you need to see. Inside were documents. Hundreds of pages showing exactly what Sarah had done with their mortgage money, their retirement funds, the loans they'd given her over the years, bank statements, transfer records, all of it leading to offshore accounts in her name. She was buying houses, I explained quietly, in the Caymans, in Switzerland, setting up accounts, planning her exit before everything collapsed. She knew it was coming. Dad's hands shook as he read. But she said she was investing it, growing our retirement. She was growing something, I agreed. Just not for you. I pulled out one final document. This is a cashier's check. It covers your mortgage, plus the retirement money she took. The board approved it this morning as part of the restitution package. Mom started to push it away. We can't accept. It's not a gift. I cut her off. It's your money. She stole it. I'm returning it. That's what family actually does. But she's in jail, Mom whispered. Our baby is in jail. She put herself there. I stood up. And she would have put me there too, if she'd had the chance. What do we do now? Dad asked, looking lost. You let the FBI do their jobs. You tell the truth when they interview you. And you stop asking me to fix what Sarah broke. I headed for the door. I have a company to run. Jennifer, Mom called after me. Will you ever forgive her? I paused, thinking about the sister who tried to frame me, who'd stolen my savings, who'd looked confused when I finally stood up to her. Forgiveness isn't the point, I said finally. Accountability is. Sarah taught me that, even if she never learned it herself. As I drove back to my apartment, my phone buzzed with a text from Agent Torres. Thorne talking. Says Sarah was planning to leave the country next week. You stopped it just in time. I smiled, thinking about that promotion speech just 24 hours ago. Sarah had called me the quiet one, the reliable one, the sister who always supported family. She was right about the reliable part. I reliably did what she never expected. I chose truth over loyalty, justice over family, and finally, chose myself.